Hey, what's up? I'm Nick Martin, and I've received quite a lot of inquiries about my battalion vehicle and how it's set up and some of the workflows. So today I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a walkthrough, talk about some of the things that I do, why I do them that way, and how I've kind of got this vehicle set up. So let's take a look. So first, kind of let me give you a little bit of a background. I'm a battalion chief in a kind of medium-sized fire department. We operate 6 fire stations. I'm on day work, so this is a take-home vehicle for me, but also as part of my job responsibilities, I respond to incidents 24/7, whether I'm at home or whether I'm at work. So a couple of things I just kind of want to talk about to get started is first, when we talk about a chief's car or a battalion vehicle, you got to realize, this is a fire truck, right? Just like an engine company is set up for hose and water and fire attack, and a ladder company is set up for ladders and ventilation and rescue and things of that nature. We've all seen engine and ladder and rescue companies that have been poorly designed, right? And we can very easily identify things about those fire trucks that either make them good or bad for their job. And the same kind of thing exists for this, right? Engines do fire attack, ladders, do ventilation and rescue, and battalion chiefs run command, right? So when we talk about setting up a vehicle like this, we've got to realize, what the function of that battalion chief or chief officer is on the fire ground, and realize that command is a function that deserves just as much attention and has to be done just as well as any other fireground function. And there are a lot of things that we do or don't do when we set these vehicles up that either help or inhibit their ability to, be a functional asset to an incident commander. So we're going to take a look at a couple of those things. But, I don't think you want to just go to Chevy or Ford and order yourself a truck, say put a light bar and a siren on it and call it a chief's car, right? That's just a truck with a light bar. It's not a battalion vehicle. It's not a chief's vehicle, right? So we're going to look at some of the things that we've designed in this vehicle that we feel like have set that up to be a strong asset to the incident commander. I receive a lot of questions about the SUV or Tahoe versus the pickup truck. My previous vehicles were Chevy Tahoes, and they were great, but I am a big fan of the pickup truck style concept. And a couple reasons for that. Number one is, you'll kind of see, I'm able to keep the inside of the cab very clean and very organized. I don't have to keep a bunch of stuff in there, and I have plenty of room for up to 3 more people in there, whether that's just carting people around or we are a department that runs command from inside of the vehicle. So very often we're going to have a command aide in there and at least 1 senior advisor. And because of the amount of space in the rest of the vehicle, I have a place to put everything else, and I can keep that cab kind of clean. The other thing is, a little bit of that clean cab concept stuff. I work in the South. It gets really hot here in the summer, and when I've had Tahoes before, you have your turnout gear sitting right behind you. You went to a fire yesterday, didn't get a chance to wash it yet, and it's just sitting down there baking. And not only is that not good for you in terms of inhaling carcinogens and all that stuff, but it just smells nasty. So being able to have that dirty stuff or wet stuff in the back of the truck until you can get it cleaned up or whatever is a really nice perk also, right? Now, this vehicle here is a 2018 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 HD with the full four-person crew cab and the extended length bed. This is a big truck, right? And as I mentioned earlier, for me, this is a take-home vehicle. So to be honest, this is kind of like driving a boat around every day. My 2 cents, I think that a vehicle like this, like a 2500 class or a similar from whatever make you like, is a good vehicle for your standard battalion vehicle that runs out of a firehouse and that kind of stuff. But I do very much like the new Chevy 1500s. The newer model years are a lot more spacious inside, and to be honest, I think it's good enough space for me. In fact, I'm getting one of those in a couple of weeks, and I'm kind of looking forward to that smaller form factor. I know that some cities out there are actually running 1500 style cabs as their primary battalion vehicles. I do think that it's a good idea to have the full crew cab. I don't like the 2-door thing, and I don't like the 1.5 thing. I like having the spacious full 4-person cab. So let's kind of talk a little bit about my functions as a battalion chief, right? So when I respond to the chief officer to fires, there's generally one of 3 kinds of functions that I'm going to end up taking, and that plays to why the vehicle is set up how it is, right? So function number 1 is, if I arrive first on the scene, if I'm the first chief, then I'm going to be the incident commander. And as I mentioned, we run command from inside of the vehicle, so you'll see that some of the things that we have set up that support that function.
Rowan G50, I'm on a scene. I'll be assuming command, I'll be switching to the command channel.
Right, so that's one thing that this vehicle is set up for, is running command from inside of the vehicle, right? If I arrive as the second arriving chief officer, then my function is going to be take a forward position in something like a division or a group. So that's going to require me to put my gear on and my air pack, go inside of the fire building and manage that tactical level. So you'll see that that's another thing that we have this vehicle set up for, is the ability to get dressed, get in your gear quickly, right? And then the third function that we would have on the scene would be, if I was the third arriving chief officer, then I would typically be the command aide. So I would be getting in the incident commander's command post, sitting in the passenger seat and helping them manage the incident. The way we run things, anything past the third arriving chief officer kind of gets filled as needed. They could end up being a safety officer, they could end up being an additional division or group or things like that. But pretty much this vehicle is set up for two things, right? To be able to run command from inside of the vehicle, and to be able to get dressed quickly and take our forward position wearing all of your turnout gear. All right, so if I'm gonna give you a little bit of a tour of the vehicle here, we'll kind of start with walking around the outside, and then we'll take a look inside of the cab, right? So as I mentioned, it's a Chevy 2500 four-door crew cab with the extended bed. One of the things that you'll see we have on here is a certain style of cap. This is a cap that I very much favor. On the side here, I have full compartments. I'll show you inside of them in a second. And then on the back of the vehicle here, we have a full style lift gate, right? So if we kind of look on these side compartments here, you'll notice that when we open these up, this doesn't go inside to the storage tray. It's a completely separate compartment, and I like that because it gives me more storage space and more organization, right? So what I have in this area here is I have my special operations turnout gear. We run an active special operations team that does all the disciplines from, structural collapse and trench to water rescue, rope, confined space, and all that kind of stuff. So our special ops team members have, a USAR style helmet and technical rescue PPE that's different from our firefighting PPE. I also have in here some water rescue stuff, my PFD, water boots, throw bag, things like that. And then just kind of some miscellaneous, extrication gloves, work gloves, things of that nature. If we go around to the other side here, in this compartment, I have some of the other stuff that I don't use very often. I have my med bag and pediatric bag, some EMS PPE, masks and gloves and gowns and things of that nature. And then here I kind of just have, my little go bag, right? So this in here is kind of just some extra clothes, t-shirts, extra sweatshirt, long sleeves, socks, things of that nature, knit cap, all that kind of stuff, just like you might carry on the rig. It's always nice to have some extra clothes and stuff like that in case, you get dirty or wet and you're out there for a long time, you got something fresh to put on. Over here, I like to participate in a lot of the department training, so I go to the live burns and things like that. I'm a firm believer of no leather helmets in burn buildings, so I have an old, burn up 1010 that I pretty much just wear for training burns and things of that nature. Now, if we look back here at the back of the vehicle, one of the key things I really like was I like this rear lift style gate here, right? So what you'll notice this is a single piece door that opens all the way up, right? And it's got a couple of nice features when we have that gate up. One thing that's really nice is that that's a single piece unit, right? So one thing we don't have down here is there's no lift gate or anything like that. So then when we go in to get to our gear, I can walk right up to it, and I don't have a lift gate down here that's I'm having to lean over or reach over to get my equipment, right? Another thing that's nice is we have this big gate over my head, right? So, if it's the weather's not great outside, particularly if it's raining, it's nice that you're kind of standing underneath there getting dressed, right? So this particular cap is made by ARE. If you're looking for the information on what it is, here's some of the information, right? A couple of tips that I'll give you is one, if you're building out a rig like this where we have a tray and then we have a box on top of the tray, be careful when you calculate your height that when this gate opens up here, you end up having a little bit of a lip here, right? One thing that we had when this version 1.0 was made is we put all this together and then we realized that the box was hitting this unless you hyperextended it. So the guys at Fleet had to kind of put it on some spacers to resolve that, and that was just kind of a whoopsie in the version 1.0 spec, right? So if we look here at the back of the vehicle, again, one of the most common functions I might have on an incident is as that second in chief, putting all my gear in an air pack and taking a forward position. So one of the things that is important is that when we set these vehicles up, that we set it up in a manner that I can basically lay my gear out, my PPE out, so that I can get dressed just as quickly and efficiently here as I might have been if I was, setting up my gear at the side of the fire truck in the firehouse. So let's take a look at kind of how that's organized. So how this is all set up here is that we have a slide out tray, and then we have a box mounted on top of it. This box was built for us by Rockland Custom Products. I do like how it's designed a lot. One thing I would say is that if you get something like this, this material on here that's kind of like a rhino liner kind of thing, is very aggressive, and to be honest, it'll beat the crap out of your knuckles if you don't pay attention as you're grabbing stuff. So maybe you want to consider getting something a little bit less aggressive, right? But I basically have tried to set my gear up here so that I can get dressed the same way I would get dressed at the fire truck or inside of the firehouse, right? So obviously I have my running pants over here. I keep these little tubes in them just to be able to keep my boots wide open so I can get my feet in there really quickly. And then I have my portable radio, my hood, and my coat, and they are draped on top of my air pack. My air pack has my thermal imager affixed to it. Then I've got my helmet over here. Then I have my box light on a strap and the halogen bar that I usually carry with me, right? So that's kind of how that's all set up so that I can get dressed pretty quickly. Another thing about this is set up that all I got to do is open the gate and start getting dressed, right? I don't have to pull the tray out. I don't have to do anything special. I can just kind of go at it and start getting dressed. Now we do have it set up back here that there is a pull-out command board. It's the same style command board that we have inside of the car, and it's a tray that slides out of the command box. Again, we usually run command from inside of the vehicle, so we pretty much never use this. Actually, in future vehicles that we're building, we're not even going to have this on there because it just takes up space and we don't use it. And then the other thing that I have is kind of just a little tray, full of some extras. I got some spare gloves in there. I got a brush to clean my tools. I've got some baby wipes for cleaning up after a fire, and just a couple of little extras that I might need. Now I've pulled the tray out here so you can take a look. Again, it's set up so that we don't have to take the tray out to get dressed, but just so you can see kind of what else is on here. You'll see it in the back. We basically just have a large open cargo area. It is a pickup truck, so we want to be able to just carry some stuff without having every inch filled. So this is just the space for carrying stuff. One tip I will give you is you can see this is not one of those 110% slide out trays, so we lose access or lose easy access to about 2.5 or so feet of the back of it. So I would advocate that if you're going to buy something like this, that you go ahead and get like one of those 110 or 120% or whatever they are trays, so that it overextends, comes all the way out, and that you can easily get to all parts of the tray. The other thing that you'll kind of see that I have on here is on one side I have a spare SCBA cylinder, just for either changing out at the scene. Of course, I could get one from a fire truck. Or the other thing is, I run fires a lot of times from home. It's the middle of the night. I don't feel like going to the firehouse to fill my cylinder. So it's a spare cylinder I can put in my air pack until I can get to the firehouse the next day. The other thing that we have over here is just a standard 2.5 gallon pressurized water extinguisher with a little drop of foam in there. It is a little fire truck, and if I show up on something like a brush fire or maybe even a small car fire, I feel silly if I don't have something to put some water on it, so there we go. There are times when I've arrived as the second chief, but before any fire trucks, and so I gotta put my gear on an air pack and make entry to start a search or locate the fire or something like that, so I have my water can that I can bring with me in a situation like that. When I'm in a forward position as a division or group supervisor, my favorite tool to carry is usually this 24-inch Halligan bar called a Lund bar, named after Pete Lund. And basically, I find that it's a small enough tool that it's easy enough for me to manage, considering that I'm there to supervise and not really, be the primary worker. But, it still allows me to force an easy door, or to take a window, or open some walls and ceilings, or as an egress tool or something like that. So that's usually what I'm going to carry when I'm in that division or group position. I don't typically carry this with me as my primary tool, but if we go to a mutual aid fire where there might be less hands and I need to do a little bit more work, it's a good tool, obviously, for opening up or, getting into a little bit more hands-on truck work. So if we look inside the vehicle here, just a couple of things. On the door here, I have my traffic safety vest, and then just a couple set of EMS gloves and a mask, just in case I have to get out real quick and touch somebody. And then as we come inside of the vehicle here, you can see that it's pretty much clear of anything, right? I don't like to keep anything on my seats other than butts, and that's because, when we run a fire, we're gonna have other people in the car with us, and we wanna make sure that we have the room for them, right? So in our center console here, obviously have our light and siren control. I'll show you some of that functionality later. And then we have 2 radios. We operate in a system where we're gonna be on 2 radio channels. Without boring you with the details, pretty much, one channel is from dispatch until arrival on scene, and then the other channel is the fireground channel with all the companies after they have arrived on the scene. So we have 2 different radios for that, so that we're not missing traffic on any one channel, and also that we're not trying to, keep our radio on scan and use one channel for multiple channels, which is a pretty easy way to start missing radio traffic. So would advocate that if you operate on a 2 radio channel system, that you consider having 1 radio for each one of those channels. I have a bit of OCD about things, as you might notice. So a couple things that I have set up on my radio here is the top radio is designated to be my dispatch channel or command channel, and my bottom radio is designed to be my operations or fireground radio channel, right? I also have hotkeys set up on my microphones so that I can quickly get to different channels that we might use, like our city operations channel or our county operations channel or our administrative channel or EMS dispatch or any of those kind of things. I can get to that very quickly just by pressing a button and not having to go through all the buttons and zones and menus and stuff. So my workflow for this is typically going to be on any given day on the top radio. I operate in a city fire department that responds automatic and mutual aid into the county, and presently the city and the county are on 2 different dispatch channels. So I like to monitor both channels so that I know what's going on. So my top radio is set to scan the city fire dispatch, the county fire dispatch, and the command channel, and that's a channel that we use later on once command has been established. And those are the only 3 channels that scan in the top radio, and that's pretty much on scan all the time when I'm driving around. In the bottom radio, I have the different operations talk groups that we use within the city, and then I also scan our county EMS dispatch channel and our city police dispatch channel. And I'm sure that sounds like a lot to listen to, and sometimes it is, but the reason I have EMS and PD police dispatch in there is that they very frequently arrive on the scene of an incident prior to the fire department, and I can get a jump on size up information by listening to those channels, right? So that's kind of how it would be as I'm driving around. Now we catch a fire. I'm going to leave that stuff on scan until we get there, because I want to hear that police or EMS channel if they get there first. But once I get a fire unit on scene, I'm going to take my radio off of scan, and I'm only going to be listening to the assigned operations talk group. And then once I get on scene and assume command, then I'm going to take my top radio off of scan and just be on the command channel. So once we have that set up, I'll have my top radio on the command channel, my bottom radio on the operations channel. The microphones correspond to that, top and bottom, and we've got the 2 channels set up that we need to run the fire. And over here we have our iPad, and that's basically our CAD interface. It's what the calls pop up on. We can access notes or maps or hydrant locations or pre-plans or things like that. And then we have a lot of other stuff set up on that iPad I'll try and go through in a later video. But we have like a Battalion Chief's buggy guidebook that is basically in there in a shared folder, and that gives us reference material, it gives us personnel rosters, it gives us stuff for technical rescue incidents or things like our confined space permit, or lots of other files that we might need to access. We can, just like from any computer, we can access them pretty easily and quickly from this internet connected iPad here. See, it's winter right now, so I got my winter hat and my gloves out there in case it's chilly when I come out. But over here we just have a bin of some extra writing implements, pencils and pens and things of that nature. And then over here we basically have the things I might need for immediate quick reference, right? So I have some hazmat stuff, since we're a technician level hazmat team, have like a NIOSH guide, and of course the ERG. Have some stuff for lost person stuff because we do land searches and things like that. Have the Hazmat IQ, quick reference stuff. If you haven't seen that and you do hazmat, probably definitely want to take a look at that. And just some more command related writing implements and things of that nature here. So right here, obviously this is kind of the crux of what we usually end up running command with most of the time, and that's our command board. So our command board is set up here on this steering wheel friendly thing. As I mentioned, we run our command from inside of the car, so I can grab that, slink that right over the steering wheel here, and I have that right in front of me, and it becomes a nice little desk, right? Also right behind here, we have one of the things that I mentioned. That's our Battalion Chief's quick action guides, and this is something that either the incident commander or the aide might reference. We have action sheets in there for our command aide, for Mayday operations, for tactical withdrawals or abandoning a building, for rural water supply stuff, active violence, railroad incidents, lost person incidents, and basically all of our special operations style calls, all the kind of calls that you don't run enough of to remember everything that you need to do, right? So here is our tactical worksheet that you may have seen before. I'll have some other videos and stuff up on that soon, but this would pretty much be the environment and the setup that we're using when we're running command. So if you're wondering how it might look, this is kind of how it looks. Fortunately, it works out I'm kind of left-handed, so on any given incident, if I'm running command, I'm going to be here writing on my board with one hand, and I have my microphone for my fireground or tactical channel in the other, and that's kind of my workflow during it. I'm sure you've seen some of the other videos and stuff that I've put out on how we run command on fires, but this is how it's pretty much going to look for the incident commander. If we're at a real fire, then next to me here, I would have my command aide, which would be that third arriving chief officer. I would give them the microphone for the command channel, and they would be basically dealing with talking to all the units that are not on scene, the dispatchers, units coming into staging, and all of those random people that walk up to the command post. One of the workflows that we kind of have is that once we have somebody in that aide seat, nobody comes directly to the incident commander, most of the time. Most of the time what's going to happen is anybody that comes to the command post is going to be directed to the aide. The aide will be the one that rolls down the window and talks to them and determines if that information is timely or important enough that it needs to interrupt the incident commander, and then facilitate that interaction if needed. The main thing that we want is we don't want that incident commander to have to take their eyes off the fire or their ears off the radio or their mind off their worksheet and where people are and what they're doing unless it's absolutely critical. Just some other random things we have in the back here. I have a second portable radio on a strap, and the way my workflow is set up now, a lot of times that'll be the radio I grab for a special operations call, so I don't have to go between two different compartments. That back here I have my personal coat rack, since this is my take-home vehicle. Have a winter coat, collared shirt with my name on it, and a job shirt, just depending on the changing weather conditions. One of the things I've been found to be really useful when you do have some cold weather and you got a take-home vehicle, this windshield de-icer is a real savior when you run a fire at 3 a.m. in the middle of winter and your windshield is all iced over. Under the back here, we just kind of have some random storage, some jumper cables, coats, that kind of thing, a couple spare command boards and things of that nature. So the lighting package is a fairly standard, NFPA compliant, red and white with a little bit of yellow warning package. We have a couple different modes. We have the response mode, which includes the preemption for traffic lights, as well as a lot more white light. and then once we put it in drive, it automatically takes it to a scene mode, which slows a little bit of the lighting down, turns off the white lights, turns off the traffic preemption, and also eliminates some of the lower level lights down here. Some of these lights will turn off so that if you do have people coming up to the command post, they're not blinded by these flashing lights right there at eye level. Another thing that we have integrated is this command mode where I can hit a button and turn parts of the light bar green, and obviously that would be to indicate where the command post is located. On some of our newer vehicles, we've kind of expanded the number of places that you can see this, and it's definitely something that's useful when there's a lot of this style of vehicle sitting at a fire scene. So that's just a little bit about my vehicle and how it's set up. It's not perfect, but I have incorporated some lessons learned from previous configurations. I hope you got some good stuff out of it. You know, remember, command is a fireground function that needs excellence just as much as any truck or engine function, and part of it starts with setting up our vehicle to be successful at our job. So hope you got some good tips out of this. If you have any questions or you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comment below. And until next time, stay combat ready.